Hey everybody, welcome to Keyword Crypto. This is Michael, and today I'm going to talk about educating yourself. Not with what I think you should know, but how to make a decision for yourself. So I wanted to talk about the Yuga Labs Bored Ape stuff, and then I didn't, and I was just going to let it go, but then I jumped on this Twitter Spaces with Nic Carter, and I was just like, oh my God, I need to talk about this again. So the reason I don't like Nick, I don't know Nic Carter or whatever, but the reason I think he's a used car salesman selling snake oil is because he is essentially like the vast majority of what he writes. So in the Twitter Spaces, he openly admits he's a Bitcoin person and he wanted to dedicate his life to advancing Bitcoin. And that is totally fine. You know, do you. I don't have a problem with that. But the way he goes about doing that is by essentially lying to people. And so I just want people to like learn how to verify, because the whole idea behind Bitcoin was don't trust, verify, right? So I'll just share a couple common tricks that he uses to dupe people, and so hopefully you won't fall for this in the future. So a very common tactic when someone is lying to you is by providing a link supporting your claim, and then they'll just link out to something else they wrote. So if your proof is I said so last month, that's not proof. That's just lying to people. So if you ever click on a link and it's to the same person, that person's lying to you. That's just right there. You don't even need to, you can just stop reading. They're lying to you. They are pushing an agenda. They are trying to sell you something. They are trying to convince you something that they believe, and they are not ethical. They're not doing it in an ethical manner. The second trick is to link to something big, assuming they're not going to read it. So a vast number of links to that Nick links out to, he'll say something that isn't true, and then he'll provide a link saying, see, this backs that up. And then I would go and read through the entire link, and it was a credible source, but the source was actually contradicting what Nick said. And he would take one tiny little line that, taken out of context, would make it look like the person was agreeing with him. But if you read the entire thing, the person's whole premise, the whole thesis, the whole point of writing that article was to essentially discredit what Nick was saying. So these are tactics that people who are lying, who are pushing an agenda, who are trying to sell you something that, you know, that they're going to directly profit off of in the short and long term. These are tactics that they use. So just be aware of that. And again, I'm not saying that what Nick is selling is good or bad, or well, that's not true. I think Bitcoin is unsustainable. And as we're seeing over the past 4-year bull run, the price of Bitcoin went up, 7x, 8x, 14x, something like that from the bottom. And transactions went down over time. So that's a pretty good indicator that people aren't using it. It's not a monetary system. It's not a way to transact with money, transact. Almost nobody in El Salvador is using it. So transactions are going down. So when transactions are going down and price goes up, that's not a good sign, because then when prices start to go down and you have less people interested in it, there's a pretty good chance that transactions are going to continue to go down. So if they're not going up during a bear market and they're not going up during a bull market, then that's a pretty good indicator that no one's using your financial tool. They're they're most likely just keeping it all off chain on exchanges and just trading it, which is fine, but it's not, money at that point. So yeah, that's that. I just want to get that off my chest. In terms of the Yuga Lab things, so if you're not familiar with Yuga Labs, they're the creators of Bored Ape Yacht Club, and there have been accusations of Nazi and alt-right imagery in the Bored Ape Yacht Club collection. Lots of 4chan alt-right memes like snuck in there. Lots of really weird esoteric connections of numbers and dates. Like it did a week launch, and the last day of the mint was the day Hitler died. And if you're familiar with the alt-right, if you're familiar with neo-Nazis, they're huge about numbers. They love numbers. Because they think that just people don't know, and most people don't. But people who people who study this stuff and pay attention to it, to catch people trying to pass across secret codes, they know about this stuff. So a very common one is the number 14 for the 14 words, which is the creed that neo-Nazis and the alt-right go by about creating a white ethno-state. So in alt-right and 4chan and all this stuff, you'll see 14 words, 14 words, 14, 14, 14. That's their declaration of independence, essentially. So there were 14 teeth on the Bored Ape Yacht Club skull, and there's 14 teeth in the Totenkopf symbol that looks really similar to the Bored Ape Yacht Club symbol. And people are like, okay, that could have just been totally random. So they started digging around a little bit, and there's a lot of really weird connections. So Yuga Labs, so Ryder Rips, he created essentially a copy of the artwork project, where he just took a few thousand of the Bored Apes and just named it RR Bored Ape Yacht Club, or RR Bored Apes. Which that brings up a lot of questions about what an NFT is, because they're saying you copied our project, but an NFT isn't the art. The art is just a cover. Think of it like a CD. The art isn't the music. The art isn't the CD. The art is just the little insert that you put in there that people visually see. So if you take that insert, you can't claim that somebody takes the insert out of your CD. You can't say they stole your CD, because they didn't. They stole the artwork, for the CD. Now you can say it's the whole thing is part of the CD, and you're like, okay, but you didn't steal the most important part, which is the music that's on the disc. So be aware that Ryder Rips obviously has a financial stake. He sold them. He set the residuals to zero, so he's not profiting off of people going back and forth. But he is a full-time artist, and he comes from a line of artists, and he obviously wants to increase his reputation. And then so he made this big long website, or not a big long website, it's like a few page website, talking about all the connections of the Bored Apes with Nazi and alt-right symbols. You can see it at gordongoner.com. I'm going to go there right now. And then somebody made, Fillion on YouTube made a video kind of connecting everything, like taking all that information and making like an hour-long video. It's very dramatic. His voice is very, very dramatic, and he wants everybody to burn their Bored Apes. So I'm not gonna try to take sides too much, but I do. This is another one of those how not to get scammed or fall for something type thing. Because right now you have a bunch of people who are claiming that this is Nazi symbolism, and then you have the Bored Ape, the Yuga Labs people saying it's all in your head. It's all it's all in your imagination. Who would do that? So the first off, simianization, which is giving apes human qualities, is a very long racist trope throughout history, linking black people to monkeys. So immediately black people, not all black people, but there were some black people who spoke out right when it launched, right when the project launched, were like, yo, this is kind of racist. And people were like, oh, it just means like we're aping into something. We're apes. It's just like, yeah, but okay. But you don't know the history and the context of what that means. And it was always a very bad look. And I'll call out, I forget the one, the gorilla one on Solana that came out a few months afterwards. I'm not going to say you can't have any kind of I'm blanking on the word, where you give something that isn't human characteristics. Shoot, it'll come back to me. Because I'm doing one with cats, and there's a bunch of cat projects and dog projects, and this, it's just like, so what? Like, you can't use monkeys or gorillas, but it's just like you have to realize that if you do, it comes with a lot of baggage, a lot of history in the United States of chattel slavery, and just a lot of murder and death. So there's that. And then there's just a lot of connection with like military stuff. Like, they love a lot of the military stuff. And it's like, okay, well, they use like a Russian helmet, but not like the Nazi helmet. So it's like little things like that where it's like, okay, well, it was Russians. Like, well, yeah, but it wasn't. It was like the Prussians. Like, okay, So there's a lot of that kind of stuff. So somebody will call somebody like, yeah, but like it wasn't technically just the Nazis. And it's like, okay. So sorry, it's not 14 teeth, it's 18 teeth. And 18 is another one of those numbers. It means 1/8, which is AH, which is Adolf Hitler. And Nazis and neo-Nazis are notorious for this kind of stuff. Of just like, so you have 14, you have 18, and you have 88. Those are all big numbers. 88 is HH, which is Heil Hitler. So they do all these kind of like numerology, like really just fucking childish first grade shit, but most people don't realize it. So another thing that people noticed is if you go to Bored Apes and on OpenSea, you'll see a lot of the Bored Apes are being sold for 88 ETH, or whatever, like 100.88 ETH. So they're constantly, or 0.14 or 0.18. It's all over the place, which is, that's not by accident. Who would sell, unless the floor was 88 ETH, no one's going to sell it for 88. They're going to say, or 0.88 or 0.14 or 0.18. That's not random. You can't like that. Just it doesn't happen that often. I could see it maybe happening once, but when you go down and you see dozens and dozens, that's very clearly. So, but that doesn't necessarily mean the Yuga Lab people, you know. But you have to accept that that is happening. So it's 18 teeth, and it's 18 teeth on the Waffen Totenkopf symbol that Nazis used. So they make the accusation against Yuga Labs that Yuga is part of Kali Yuga, which is a popular alt-right traditionalist ideology, and there's in the alt-right they have Kali Yuga Surfing Club and ride the Kali Yuga wave and surf the Kali Yuga, and it means like ride. So Kali Yuga means like the end times, and so surf the Kali Yuga means just like go with the flow, just enjoy the ride, and enjoy the ride as the world melts down. But a lot of these people are doing everything they can to bring the Kali Yuga about. Like they're actively trying to bring the end of the world. They're trying to destroy democracy in America. They're trying to undermine democracy in America to have people lose faith in democracy itself. So anytime you see somebody say, oh, my vote doesn't count, that's another person that the neo-Nazis and the alt-right convinced that democracy is a failure. Like that's what they want. They just want one person and then another person to be like, oh, our vote doesn't matter. Well, okay, but when you don't vote, the people who do vote, and this is if you go back and you look at the history of voting in this country for the last 50, 60 years, the right wing of voters in this country are notorious voters. They vote en masse, and they vote in the midterms especially. They're known to get out the vote in the midterms. They're trying to convince people that your vote doesn't matter, but they're all going out voting. And then Democrats are known for voting during presidential elections because they're fucking lazy or they're uneducated. I don't get it. I don't understand why they don't. But this is what happens is that now the majority of the people are voting Democrat, but they don't have any power because the Republicans consistently vote during during the midterms. They blow Democrats out of the water in terms of voting. So that's their trick, is they try to convince people that your vote doesn't matter, and then they get their people to go out and vote. And that's how they kind of, that's how Trump got elected. He didn't win the popular vote, but they manipulated the system. They didn't manipulate the system. They manipulated the system in the sense of it's only happened 3 times in our country where the president didn't win the popular vote. But it's all happened in my lifetime, which is scary as fuck. So they figured out a way to kind of manipulate the system to prey on conservatives in swing states and get them to get the Electoral College to swing in the favor of the person who didn't win the popular vote. So Donald Trump, the person who didn't win the popular vote against Hillary Clinton, then was able to ram through 3 Supreme Court justices, and now we have a conservative court banning abortionists, or essentially overturning Roe v. Wade, when something like 70 or 80% of the country doesn't want Roe v. Wade to be overturned, and that's including conservatives. A huge percentage of conservatives don't want Roe v. Wade to be overturned. Yet there we go. So now we have this, reactionary, just kind of like fucking batshit crazy Supreme Court that now almost nobody has any faith in because it's just completely political at this point. So that's why, so that's something. Okay, that was a very long tangent. But when somebody tells you your vote doesn't matter, they've either drank the Kool-Aid or they're a used car salesman. And then you have to ask, if they're trying to convince me that my vote doesn't matter, what are they trying to get out of it? So, do we have different political ideologies? If we do, you can pretty much be guaranteed that they're voting and they're trying to convince me not to vote. So yeah. So they called themselves Yuga Labs, and they claimed it was from a minuscule boss in one of the not so popular Legends of Zelda games called Yuga, which turns people into 2D characters. Okay, sure. Here's the thing. Now we have the name that is a double entendre, essentially. So you have something that's totally innocuous, the boss in a Zelda game, and then you have something that's totally adopted by the alt-right and neo-Nazis, which is Kali Yuga. So it's like either super innocent or super devious. But in this situation, they'd be like, look, we're nerds. We play video games. We grew up playing video games. Like, this is a guy that turns people into 2Ds. We created 2D NFTs. Okay. Then they have the whole 18 teeth thing. Well, we just blah, blah, blah. We farmed it out to a company and that's what they, we gave them some designs. Here's the thing. So they made all these accusations that Yuga Labs is racist, and they said the 18 teeth of the Bored Ape is exactly like the 18 teeth of the SS Totenkopf symbol. And they said, blah, blah, it's not like that. It's not like this. It's not like that. You'd have to be crazy to, it wasn't our fault. It doesn't even look anything like it, blah, blah. They don't even mention the 18 teeth. They spend, if you look at their Medium post, they spend a good chunk of the space of the rebuttal talking about the symbol and don't ever mention the 18 teeth, which is the number one thing that people are saying is like the most sketchy part of it. Yeah, it looks like the Totenkopf thing, but they actually created an ape with 18 teeth, just like just like the skull and the Nazi symbol. So that is eerily similar in a very, very specific way. 1-8 AH Adolf Hitler. Okay, so let's put that aside now. Then they say the Yuga Labs. It could totally be a benign thing with the Legend of Zelda character, a boss, or it could be something totally devious with, alt-right, right-wing Nazi shit. And then you have stuff like the names. So they did an anagram for Gordon Goner, which is one of the head guys, and the anagram is Drongo Negro. And Drongo in Australian apparently is slang for stupid. And they use Drongo on 4chan a lot. I'm not on 4chan, so there's some stuff I have to kind of take at face value, but I haven't heard anybody push back that that's not something that's actually on 4chan. And a lot of people in CT were on 4chan first. There was a lot of really racist shit in cryptocurrency in 2017 when I got in. And it all stemmed from 4chan. Gordon Goner, Drongo Negro. But here's kind of where the Fillion YouTube thing isn't really honest. So Gordon says, I wanted to come up with a name that was cool. Something like Joey Ramone. Like Joey Ramone is a cool name. So I came up with Gordon Goner. And Fillion misinterprets that and says he claims he wanted a name that sounded like Joey Ramone. Gordon Goner sounds nothing like Joey Ramone. Okay, well, he didn't say sounded like. He said he wanted something cool like a cool name. So this is my problem with people who are going after. You have so much information. You have so much connections to Nazi stuff already. You don't need to lie on top of that. And that was a blatant lie right there. And I'm not saying that they're racist. I'm not saying that they're Nazis. I'm not saying anything. I don't know them. All I'm trying to do is look at the information and disseminate it, and then make a decision about what I want to do with my life based on that information. Right? Do I want to buy a Bored Ape? Do I not want to buy a Bored Ape? Do I think it'll be a good long-term investment? Do I not think it'll be a good long-term investment? Based on the information and my dissemination of it. My problem with a lot of people is they try to say, there are no facts backing this up. Like, what are you talking about? There's hundreds. The facts are there. You just don't want them to exist. Now, they could all honestly be completely innocuous. The chances of that being true are 0.0000001%. Like, that's some racist ass shit. That's some Nazi linkage right there. But that doesn't mean that they're Nazis. So Ryder Rips and Philly and all these guys, they say this is the biggest troll against the crypto community in the world, for crypto, because Bored Ape is now $1 billion industry. Yuga Labs is now $1 billion company, and they did it essentially selling Nazi-related imagery, art, to troll, the left. But my response is, nobody in crypto is a lefty. I mean, there's a few of us, but we're like a fraction of a fraction. Most people in crypto are just full-on anti-government. That's not true. There's so many Bitcoiners, especially, who are just like full-on right-wing, misogynistic, white is right type people. And it is, me and JJ did an episode on this. Like, look, you guys, you have to fucking pick a side. When everything with BLM and all that went down on the last couple of years, like, you have to pick a side. A lot of people in CT especially kind of, walk the line so they don't have to pick a side, because they think it's funny, and they make jokes and it's like, and they make these racist jokes like, oh, we're just kidding. Don't be so sensitive. It's just like, no, people are dying. It's not a joke. It's not a joke. And that is a form of propaganda where, there's a Nazi playbook. It's 12 things that authoritarians do that the Nazis kind of perfected. And that's one of them, is just like, making everything a joke. The Boogaloo Boys are a perfect example. They purposefully wear Hawaiian shirts because how dangerous could guys who are LARPing with guns wearing Hawaiian shirts be? Well, they're actually very dangerous. Like they're on these messaging boards convincing kids to go, 18-year-olds to go out and shoot people up, shoot up high schools, shoot up, black neighborhoods. This shit's fucking serious. So when people who used to be heavy into 4chan are now seeing a lot of that same, alt-right, right-wing Nazi propaganda coming into Bored Apes, they got nervous, and they dug it up. But that's the thing about Philly, and it's like, yo, bro, you did a whole hour-long thing. You could have easily made it 59 minutes and 30 seconds and not said, he said Gordon Goner sounds like Joey Ramone, because he didn't say that. So another thing is, they do a lot of numerology shit. They do a lot of puzzles. They do a lot of cipher codes. They did a website kind of game where you had to go through and do these like really, really, well-known ciphers. But you had to do that to get all these things. And every single thing was related to ape, or, apes or monkeys. And it's like, okay, well, it's a monkey project. But here's another one is, a lot of them were double entendres. So like when you went through the entire game and you solved it, it was like 7 words that were related to monkeys. Guinone, a type of monkey, but also Rene Guinone, who is credited for bringing Kali Yuga into the West. And he's an alt-right icon. So that's just another one of those kind of weird double entendres. Macaca. It's a well-known monkey, but it's also in the 90s, in the early 2000s, there was a famous Virginia senator who openly on camera called this one of his Indian constituents macaca, which is like slang for the N-word or just like monkey. So calling brown people monkey, that's pretty racist. And then in interviews he wanted to say, well, I just made up the word. You didn't make up the word. The word exists, and it's a racial slur towards people of color. So I just made it up. Okay, well, you didn't just make it up. You probably hang out with a bunch of Nazis or white supremacists or KKK people, and you heard it enough, and you probably said it enough, and then you just slipped out. So, the fact they were doing a lot of this, one of the words was Aperol. It's like, oh, well, ape is in it. Okay. It's also looks like a big red pill, which is just kind of convenient. But, it's like that's the thing is a lot of this stuff, a lot of this 4chan, a lot of this alt-right message board, a lot of these words have double entendres, and one of them can be innocuous, and one of them is pretty like horrendous. And this is a pattern with the Bored Ape Yacht Club. Gargamel, another one of the creators, he likes to write about like the Nazi time period, which is fine on its own. It's totally fine. So he named himself, his nickname's Gargamel, which he says it's because people he liked to watch people get smurfed because he hates Smurfs. And smurfing was something that happened in StarCraft 2. And so that's why he did it. And he hates Smurfs. And so that, okay. But Gargamel is also like a super well-known trope of Jewish people, like stereotypical Jewish people. And it's like super offensive. And I grew up watching this show, and it wasn't until I went back and I was watching this, I was like, holy shit, man. Like Gargamel was so fucking anti-Semitic, and I grew up on that. I grew up watching that and had no fucking clue, but total Jewish stereotype. So that's another one. Gargamel is I don't like Smurfs, so I smurfing on StarCraft 2, and the other version of it is this super anti-Semitic depiction of Jewish people. Who's trying to get all the money, and kill people. And this is like, okay. What's the next one? Oh, here's another one against Fillion and against RR is one of the other ones is SAS. And he claims he was fed up with one of the other creators, and he says, hey, no SAS. So he called himself SAS. Okay. That could totally be. But SAS also means SASS, and SA is something from Nazi propaganda, and SS, everybody knows what SS is, the SS. Yeah, so the Nazi thing is SA und SS, and that means SAS. But it's also, he's the coder, and SAS is a common coding thing. So it could have been that. There's all these different innocuous things that could also, like in my mind, that one was a stretch. And another one was Emperor Tomato Ketchup. It was the title of a album. Emperor Tomato Ketchup. Totally innocuous. In the 90s, but it was also a film, like a child pornography film made by a director in Japan in the 70s. That's another one where it's just like, it could be innocuous, it could be fucking horrible. Pedophilia. Like, what the fuck? Like, why? I mean, so I'm constantly conflicted with, like, are these guys really smart or are they really fucking stupid? They went to grad school, or I don't know if they undergrad or grad school for writing. Gordon Goner and Gargamel did. And it's just like, usually artists, when they create something, they either do everything for a specific reason, or they do stuff subliminally and they don't even realize they're doing it. So like I've created a lot of art when someone's like, oh, you did that, blah, blah. And I was like, oh yeah. I can see how you see that. And I didn't even think about that. I just happened, so a lot of, but like it reinforced the thesis of the art I was trying to create, but I didn't even realize I was doing it. So it could be that they're just not educated about the real world, but I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that a couple of these guys were on 4chan a lot, like, beforehand, and had accounts. So being inundated with this Nazi symbols, it would be weird to believe that they were coming into contact with all this Nazi stuff and really didn't know. And then Fillion makes this crack about Gordon Goner's dad, who was this famous boat maker. And he's like, and he's so-and-so's son. And it's just like his dad was some insidious person. And I dug through like 20 different articles about his dad, and I couldn't find, there was one mention that maybe he was connected to the mafia in New York before he moved to Miami or Jersey. But nobody could really confirm it. And I was like, okay, so like you're throwing his dad under the bus now too? Like saying his dad's some horrible person? I don't know. I like, there's a movie about him with John Travolta. Maybe I'll watch that. It's about his dad. So, okay, what's the next one? The Rolling Stone cover that they did. There was some weird shit in that. Like lots of monkeys, monkey hands. Why do you have monkey hands in there? And it's very, it's historically, they were doing that in Africa. They would cut off the hands of Africans who didn't work hard enough creating rubber. And then they started using them as currency, these cut off African people's hands. And it's fucking disgusting. And they've have all these monkey hands all over the place. And they don't mention that. And so it's like this really disturbing symbolism that, when you say historically black people have been associated with monkeys and apes, and black people were having their hands cut off because they weren't working hard enough for free, for these white invaders, and then you put monkey hands all over your game and all over your it's like, so that's another, like there's all this like really weird shit. And the video game that they actually made another video game of like the monkey shooting bananas at the baddies. Okay, well, they're not shooting bananas, they're shooting bananas in the shape of a swastika. A yellow swastika. And the Yuga Lab guys were like, "Well, come on, it's a katana, or not a katana, the throwing star thing. I'm blanking on the word. It's that. It's like, okay, a shuriken. Like, okay, well, do a Google search for shuriken, a photo Google search. You'll see that like less than 1% of the pictures are curved shurikens. Most of them the points are all straight. Almost none of them are curved. So that's another one of those innocuous things. They made it look like a swastika, and then when you call them out, they're like, God, you're crazy. You're just making this up. It's a shuriken. Okay, so one of them's innocuous, one of them's fucking horrible. Again, like how many times are you going to do? It's like, how many times are you going to do this? What's another one? Oh, so they did they launched the Bored Apes, like I said, and for a week. There was a week-long mint window, and the last day was Hitler's death day. And their response was, who would even think of that? Nazis would think of that. Nazis think about that. Nazis celebrate Hitler's death day. Nazis celebrate the numbers. Nazis celebrate, like Nazis do all this shit. Neo-Nazis in this country do all this shit on 4chan, on message boards. That's who does it. So when you say who would do this, the answer is Nazis would do this. So that's why people are associating you with Nazis now, because you're doing things that Nazis do continually, over and over and over again. You're connecting your artwork with Nazis and right wing, alt-right fucking scary shit. So you can't. Another one is like they just did the Other Side drop that also launched on Hitler's death day. And somebody had pointed this out. They're like, oh, yeah, and there was a huge gas war on Hitler's death day when Other Side launched. So people wasted all this ETH because gas was so high. They essentially gassed each other. Everybody gassed each other to death on Hitler's death day. Just another random, weird fact. And then one of the characters in The Other Side is called Stonewall Jackson, which is, in reference to Stonewall Jackson, which was a Confederate general. Yeah, it's just, there's just so many connections over and over and over and over again. So the question at that point is, okay, so all the connections are there, and they're doing it in a way where they can keep pointing to the innocuous version away from the Nazi version. And if it was just one or two things, okay, that's fine. But there's like dozens and dozens. There's the helmets. There's this sushi chef bandana that isn't actually, there's like 6 types of sushi chef bandanas, and none of them are the ones that's in the Bored Ape. The one that's in the Bored Ape is the rising sun of the kamikaze pilots that would kill Americans and kill Allied forces. That's the one they put on the Bored Ape, not actual sushi chef bandanas, the kamikaze pilot ones. Congo hats that are known for invading the Congo, invading Africa, and stealing black people and sending them all over the world as slaves. Communist hats, Prussian hats, just really weird things like that. Fezzes, which are also a weird, like, kind of neo-Nazi thing, kind of not a neo-Nazi thing. All these like little things like that. So I said I wasn't going to accuse them of being Nazis because I don't know them, and I'm not going to. Because like I said, who are they selling it to? They're selling this artwork to people in CT who at that time, a year ago, it's still, to this point, it's like if you're on crypto Twitter, the vast majority of people in the Bitcoin space and like the hardcore, the hardcore people who are like anti-government, all that, they're like Peter Thiel type people, and hold Peter Thiel up on a pedestal. This guy's like anti-democratic, and like he openly says he doesn't want people to be able to vote now. He's funding hardcore right-wing candidates who are just trying to like overturn Roe versus Wade, trying to overturn a Obergefell so gay people can't be married anymore, trying to say, like sodomy laws, like get sodomy laws back in the books. It's just like really, really hardcore, 50, 100 years ago type shit. These are the people that Peter Thiel is funding their campaigns. And those are a lot of the people I come into contact with on crypto Twitter. Now, maybe I'm just choosing to come into contact with them. But, in the NFT space, it's there. In the Bitcoin space, it's there. Not so much in the Ethereum space. And I think that's a top-down thing because Vitalik is not that type of person. From my experience with him. Limited experience with him. So am I going to say they're Nazis? No, because they were selling this to those people, and those people didn't necessarily know A lot of these people didn't know what that was. Even now, and even now they kind of refuse to admit it, which either means that they're in on it or they're embarrassed and they don't want to admit that they bought a Bored Ape that's worth, $100,000 and it's Nazi propaganda. That's an embarrassing thing. And then you've got this ape. So what do? Do you sell it to somebody and take the money and run? Do you burn it? Because I wouldn't. If I had it, I don't know what I would do because I'm poor. If I had an ape right now and I truly believed they were Nazi sympathizers and I supported them and I made them all, 100 millionaires because, it's a $1 billion company at this point, and I made them all rich beyond their wildest dreams, I would be embarrassed. And I would feel like that's blood money at that point. But what do you do when you're dirt poor and you bought something and it's now worth $100,000? It's like, holy shit. That's fucking crazy. I can't even imagine what these people are going through. So it could be that. It could be that they're trolling the alt-right. It could be that they put all this stuff in there for the alt-right and then collected all the money from the alt-right. Hillary, I forget if it was Hillary or somebody else. They found out, so it was some progressive candidate, and they found out that some white supremacist had donated a chunk of change, like $20,000 or something like that to the campaign. And people were like, oh no, I think it was a pedophile. And people were like, well, are you going to return the money? And people are like, yeah, you should return the money. Return the money. I was like, I'm thinking to myself, it's like, why would I give a pedophile money back? Are you out of your fucking mind? I understand that you think like, he gave me a donation, so I'm going to do what he says. No, I'm going to take his donation and I'm going to put it towards anti-pedophile stuff. I'm literally going to use it to try to get him thrown in jail. Why would I give him his money back? That's fucking idiotic. So I could see a really funny troll if they're total left-wing people in a hardcore right-wing space, because they're really tailoring, that art is tailored to 4chan. I mean, it's just totally tailored to 4chan. So I could see if I had gone into 4chan and been like, holy shit, this place is a cesspool, I want to fuck with these people, creating art based on 4chan to make fun of 4chan people and then having them give me money. Like, that would be amazing. Like, I'm going to profit. I'm going to start harvesting all the money out of 4chan. All you Nazi skinheads, all you racists, all you misogynists, all you anti-Semites, keep giving me your money, because I'm never going to use it to support to what you believe. But that's a crazy troll, because unless you eventually come out and admit you were doing that, the majority of people are just going to think that you're a racist. And their CEO, this woman, she's like, one's a Cuban, one's a Jew, one's a Middle East, like a Pakistani or something like that. One's this, one's that. How dare you claim they're racist? And you're just like, what are you fucking talking about? Like, they were Jewish sympathizers. There were, Jewish people who helped the Nazis. There's plenty of Cubans who are authoritarians and support Castro. Being Cuban doesn't give you a free pass of not being a Nazi. Being a Jew does not give you a free pass. Clarence Thomas is up there saying slavery doesn't exist, or, racism doesn't exist. Black people are like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, Louisiana just, was in the middle of fighting about gerrymandering all the black people in the state into one section for the House of Representatives. So even though black people represent like 40% of the people in the state, they're only going to get like 2% of the representatives. So, and the white people are going to get 90%. So even though white people are only 60% of the population, I'm just making up numbers. So even though white people are 60% of the population of Louisiana, they're going to have 90% of the vote. That's gerrymandering. That's called packing, and it's a way to marginalize people of like any group that you don't want to have a powerful vote. We had the Voting Rights Act that the conservative court struck down and said, racism doesn't exist anymore. Cool. Yeah, we didn't have the alt-right march chanting "Jews will not replace me" in Virginia 2 years ago or last year. That didn't happen. Yeah, cool. Racism totally doesn't exist. Anti-Semitism totally doesn't exist anymore. Here's the thing about art. Art is subjective. Artists can be doing some crazy ass shit, and it could take decades for the truth to come out. That's why I'm hesitant to make a call when I've never met these people, never had a conversation with these people. The only thing I'm going by is their public statements and the information that Ryder Ripps brought up and Fillion brought up. Like I said, some of the stuff is a stretch that Fillion and Ryder Ripps brought up. A lot of it is not. A lot of it is this double entendre stuff that they keep figuring out. They're like, okay, so this guy, is whatever, something innocuous, and also, a Nazi sympathizer. This means that, it also means Nazi shit. This means video games and also means Nazi shit. This means smurfing on StarCraft 2 and also Jewish depiction of fucking stereotypical Jews and totally anti-Semitic. So it's like there's so much double entendre where one side is good and one side's evil that it definitely has me questioning a lot of it. But again, I'm not going to make a decision. But if somebody asked me if they should buy a Bored Ape, I would tell them all this. And I would say, now make a decision based on that. Now you have all the information. They may be trolling liberals. They may be trolling Nazis. Who knows? But right now, there's a lot of association with Nazi stuff. So you got to figure out, you have to make the decision for yourself, which way you're leaning. Do you think they're Nazis? Do you think they're not Nazis? And that goes back to the thing about Nic Carter. No, I'm just kidding. He's not a Nazi. I don't know. You'll have a lot of people out there who are actively calling any questioning of the apes, like, oh, you're just fudding. Oh, you didn't get in early. Oh, blah, blah. Like what the Bitcoiners do with Ethereum when they just shit on Ethereum. And it's just like, bro, it's clear you're fucking just jealous that Ethereum's got like 10,000 times more volume across all the different aspects of Ethereum compared to Bitcoin. You're just salty. But in this situation, people are trying to say, oh, the information doesn't exist. There's no proof. Well, no, there's tons and tons and tons of proof. You're just choosing not to see it. Now, I'm not telling you what way to lean, but I'm saying you need to accept that the proof is there and then examine what the proof means. Because it's not cut and dry when it comes to art. Nothing's cut and dry, and that's the hard thing. And that's what I feel like these guys are playing on, is that nothing's cut and dry. That's why they keep doing all this double entendre shit, is to really kind of fuck with people, to troll people. I just don't know who they're trolling. Maybe they're trolling everybody. Maybe they're commenting on the rise in 4chan and woke culture at the same time. Who fucking knows? I don't know. But the simianization of apes with humans has a storied history, and I personally don't feel comfortable buying stuff that does that. So that's it. Stay safe out there. I know it's hard to educate yourself because there's just so much information out there. That's why I want to help people understand how to disseminate information. And follow the rabbit hole, click all the links. Don't shut yourself off from something somebody's saying. Take it, file it away. You don't have to make a decision the moment you get information. You are allowed to have no opinion. You're going to be confronted by Nazis. You're going to be confronted by the woke left who say you have to make an opinion right this second or else we're going to demonize you. And your response should always be, you want to know what? I will make a decision when I have all the information. You pressuring me to make a decision when I don't have information makes me think that you're lying to me. And that usually kind of gets people to shut up a little bit. Be like, look, like if you're not a Nazi, look, I'm not a Nazi. Nothing I've ever done would lead anybody to believe I'm a Nazi. So why won't you allow me to disseminate this information and make sure that I'm not making a mistake? Because the woke left is known for making mistakes. You know, Nazis are known for making mistakes. Sorry, that was fucking horrible. And I'm not trying to equate mistakes that the woke left makes to what Nazis make, but in modern times, you know, people tend to jump the gun really quickly, immediately. It doesn't mean they're always wrong, but give yourself permission to take a moment to breathe, read the information, make a decision on your own morals and values and ethics, and move on with your life. And you don't have to go out there and be like, the apes are racist, blah, blah. You can literally just shut the fuck up and not say anything. You have that right too. I have that right. I never do it though. I always talk, even when no one's listening. But give yourself permission to get all the information and to call people out on it when it's clear they're selling you garbage, like Nic does with his fake links. So that's it. Thanks for listening. I hope that you think more about life and you do more research and you don't fall for stuff as much anymore from this. That was the worst ending ever. Okay. Talk to you guys later.